Yo, what's up, y'all? It's Zems, and welcome to another reaction video. Today we're gonna react to I spent 8 hours in a courtroom with Diddy, and this is everything he did. This video is by Rotten Mango, so if you guys haven't already, make sure you swoop down to the description box, click on the link, and watch this video in entirety, because I'm gonna be pausing, stopping, and talking through the whole thing. If you guys are new to the channel, my name is Zems, and welcome to the Crow's Nest.
Tuesday, May 6th, I walk into this room in New York City. I'm already nervous. My plane was delayed. I was supposed to be here yesterday. The room itself is so daunting. It's huge. It feels like it could fit 100 people, 200 people. I have no spatial awareness. It feels like a cathedral church without the peaked ceilings. The ceilings are tall, they're made out of wood, and everything about it feels like you cannot talk above a whisper. So right when you walk in through the double doors, you've already walked through this like carpeted hallway where you can hang your coat. Double doors open up. There's 2 retired law enforcement officers next to you. They're wearing bulletproof vests.
They're retired?
Yes, and now this is their job. So all of them are retired law enforcement. And the first thing you notice are church pews. Just rows and rows of church pews. You got the left side and the right side. And then above that, and I'm just trying to paint the picture, there are 10 massive chandeliers. Huge lights, but chandeliers makes it sound very fancy, and there's crystals hanging off of it. They look like the ceiling boot lights everybody hates, but they're huge. I don't even think I could hold it with my arms all the way stretched out. And there's 10 of them.
Boot lights
so
is
to give you
crazy. I know what you're
scale of
talking
this
about,
room,
though.
it's grand. Interestingly enough, magnifying these ceiling boot lights tenfold actually does make them look prettier. So there's 10 of them lined up in rows of 2 right above the church pews. So 5 on the right side, 5 on the left side. And then you have this like wooden little barricade, like a little wooden fence. I mean, you could easily jump over it. There's a little door. But beyond that, there's more rows and rows of seating, but they have computers and they have better chairs with cushions. And then at the very front of the room, you have this podium and this rope painting. It's a massive artwork that takes up the whole wall, and it's made out of rope that's been
crazy.
tied together, and it's different colors, and it's probably 2 of me standing tall. The church pews are just rock solid wood. You know it's good wood, but every time you inch your butt, you feel like the whole pew is vibrating. You can feel other people moving, and by hour 4, everybody's inching their butts because it's so sore from the solid wood pew. And it's awkward because almost everyone just sits on one.
Yeah, it reminds me back in school. I think it was elementary. Them desks was not playing around. All wood. It was crazy, man. You could not learn in those seats. Booty will be flat by the end of the lecture.
One side. Now, this is going to probably change on Monday, but during jury selection, we're all seated pretty much on the right side.
So the left is empty?
The left side has a few people, but barely any. So we're all gathered on the right side, and we're not even condensed to like, oh, single file, let's fill out the first few rows. We're all scattered around the right side. So at the very front row, you have the court sketch artist, and they're going to be looking at Diddy diagonally. So he's sitting right in front of the left side row of the pews. And so we get like a diagonal from behind view of Diddy.
I see.
So the court sketch artists are at the front. There's about 2 to 3, and they have, I didn't know it was this big because when I look online, it looks like a little thumbnail. I thought they bring in a little notepad. It's like 2 feet. It's not canvas. It's like a paper.
Oh.
And they have chalk, they have pastels, they have the surgeon binoculars that they put on their head to stare into Diddy's soul. Yeah, I guess.
What?
They're trying to get all the details of every defense attorney, the judge, the prosecutors of Diddy. And then behind them, you have a few empty rows and then like a few scattered people. These appear to be people associated with Diddy's legal team or supporters of Diddy. AKA his friend was there. So his family aren't there yet. They're going to show up for opening statements, but they're not here for jury selection. One friend is there. He was sitting 2 rows in front of us. And then you have the in-house.
Was he the one wearing the free Diddy shirt?
Yeah. He was pleasant. He didn't really talk to anybody, but yeah, he was sitting there. And then behind him, you have the court reporters. And then behind that row, you've got us, members of the press. That's where I was sitting. And when you get there, you sit down. It feels intentionally uncomfortable. And you're just sitting on this rock solid pew. And the one saving grace of this entire place is there's massive windows that are covered in sheer curtains, so you can't really see out. But if you do take a peek, it's the most beautiful view of New York City and the Hudson River. But nobody's looking outside. We're staring at this one door near the front of the courtroom, because that is where Sean Diddy Combs is going to walk out of. The man on trial for racketeering, 2 counts of sex trafficking, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. It's interesting because when he walks in, his presence is kind of like a shrug. My researchers and I were staying up all night. We're trying to find analogies because there's no cameras allowed. And I want you guys to get not even just like the visual, because clearly you guys know what Diddy looks like, but the feeling that I personally got, it's like a shrug. When someone walks into a party, there's a few ways that people react. I feel like the first way is, oh my God, who is that? Who is that person? And people start asking, and you're like, oh, that's that person. And then you have times where people walk in, you look at your friends, and you just shrug. Like, I don't know who that person is. Do you know who that person is? I don't know why they just walked in here.
What?
It's just very unassuming. There's no strong presence. He just walks in.
So it wasn't as intense as you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, there was nothing.
Less presence.
Way less presence, because you hear all these reports about how he does have this very magnifying, electrifying star power.
Yeah, I don't feel like it would be there. I mean, he's not in his habitat. Dude is in courtroom right now, so I think you wouldn't even feel a presence. You know what I mean? He's not like no Jeffrey Dahmer or no, Ted Bundy or nothing like that. You're not gonna feel like any kind of like menacing, energy through the air or anything like that. But dude is known for being out and about and partying and stuff. So I mean, I think I would figure that you wouldn't feel anything, but who knows? It could be he just doesn't have that effect on people, I guess. But then again, I think you might have to be a fan of him, even if that.
But there is a lot of tension, and it's interesting because this room is massive, but all of the tension, all of the energy is just lopsided to the front of the courtroom, because that is where the judge, the prosecutors, the defendant, Sean Diddy Combs, the defense team, they're all there. And at some point during the many hours that you sit there, it kind of starts feeling like a one-way window or a one-way mirror. I overheard some people say it feels kind of like we're watching a movie or we're watching fish in an aquarium. There's no interaction between the two sides of the room. There's no conversation, obviously. There's nothing. It just feels like we're watching something that maybe we're not even supposed to be watching. Like we're silent flies on the walls, and we have to be silent, and we can't comment, and no one's talking, and we don't exist to them.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It feels like an invisible force field in the middle of the room. Just boom, there's the force field.
Yeah, because like when you're even in public, you don't want to stare at people.
No, but all of us are just staring down.
I wonder if that's why it feels so intriguing, because you're not supposed to staring at someone. Yeah. Like analyzing everything they're doing in person.
And you know what's crazy? I did catch myself staring so intently because I'm jotting down notes and I'm watching because I want to make sure that I get all my notes accurately, right? So I'm staring up like this. And then I made eye contact with someone who works at the court, and it is very weird. I did feel like I'm breaking social norms.
Yeah.
And it feels very uncomfortable. It feels like a force field. And then all of a sudden, it breaks because Diddy will turn around or tilt his head and he will stare back. And this is a man, and my researchers warned me because their flight did not get delayed. So they came on Monday and they said, it's not like he's looking at one person specifically. I mean, I'm sure he's looking at his friend. I'm sure he's looking at the people that he works with, but it's not like he's looking at the members of the press. Like he doesn't really care about the members of the press like that. He's not like, hey, that one person, I'm going to stare at you. But he will look at all of the members of the press. Sometimes
like one by one.
Yes, it feels like one by one. Now, it's not like he can spend a lot of time looking.
Or try to remember faces.
It feels like he's doing maybe a few faces, and then he'll wait, turn around, do another few faces. I would say I could count many a times I felt I made eye contact with Diddy, and I'm not saying this as like he was specifically looking at me, right? But it's just he's trying to see who's in the courtroom. And the way he makes eye contact, I think that was more jolting. His presence was a shrug, but his eye contact is very intense. He reminds me of someone who just does not break eye contact. It feels like he's staring into your soul. There was one point where I thought I was going crazy, and I looked at my researcher who's sitting behind me, and she was like, she's mouthing, what? There was once where he's looking in maybe me, the person next to me, or the person to my right, and he just wouldn't look away, to the point where I felt like all of us started looking away first.
Wow.
You know, we were talking to other people, and there were a lot of people that felt similarly. It feels very challenging when he looks at people. It doesn't feel like zoning out. It doesn't feel like, I wonder why these people are here. It feels challenging. That's the best word.
Is he doing this on purpose here, or is this how he always?
I don't know him. I personally feel like this is how he is. I don't think that he's like cares about the members of the press that much.
This is just how he always looks at someone.
Yes.
He holds his eye contact and he doesn't break it.
No. It feels like he sizes up everyone. And it's not even like we're important or anything to him, but it just is very interesting. So this is week 1 of jury selection for the Diddy trial. And I was doing so much research about this before we went into jury selection. Not we, but you know, is that the 12 people that are on the jury, this is the only thing that really matters, is that they like the defendant more than they like the prosecutors, or vice versa. That's what the government, that's what the defense are trying to do. Does this person like us maybe a little bit more than they like the other person? Obviously, that's very simplified. But is it? Some jury experts believe trials can be won or lost in jury selection the first week, the first few days. I was watching a ton of videos, reading articles written by attorneys, and I find it fascinating that most of them say jury selection is not about selecting a juror. It's about deselecting jurors. One jury expert puts it a little more blunt. You're trying to get rid of the jurors who are going to ruin your case and will not be receptive to your arguments. Don't focus on jurors you want. Focus on jurors you don't want. But in that same regard, you have to ask yourself, if I try to get this person out of the jury, am I going to have a less desirable potential juror replace them? Other attorneys candidly write on Reddit, pick your leaders and pick your sheep. That's the rule that I live by. You need 4 people who you think you can really speak to, and they got to be leaders. And they're going to listen to you, and then later when they deliberate, they're going to lead the followers to the answer that you want.
That's
Wasn't
smart.
one of the latest addition to Diddy's team
Yes, a jury consultant.
So her whole job is this?
Yes.
Okay.
That's all she's doing. And she does that for many trials. Now, others say, pick your leaders. Yeah, that's true. But also pick them wisely. You want strong thinkers, strong leaders that are great at advocating and leading conversations, that also like you. But you don't want strong-willed jurors. According to one attorney, strong-willed, domineering jurors are the most dangerous because they try to drag the others with them. Letting one of these into your jury can ruin the entire jury. Pay attention to the degree of certainty and confidence in which they respond to questions. If in any way, it's not even about the question being asked, because a lot of the questions being asked during jury selection are very repetitive. Are you going to be able to not be biased? Yes, you saw the hotel video, but are you going to be able to put that aside and not be biased? The questions themselves don't say a lot, but attorneys say it's the way the jurors answer the questions. If in any way they exhibit a tendency to challenge the question, strike them, get them out. One jury consultant says trials aren't completely won and lost in jury selection, but all lawyers acknowledge it's a big part of winning.
I think that's kind of sucks too. Imagine you're on trial for something and you actually did not do something and they're really good at picking jurors, or they're really good at like their line of questioning, and you don't have a good answer for them. And the next thing you know, like you're pretty much sentenced to being guilty because of emotions of people that you don't even know and they don't know you. Isn't that weird? How you get sentenced by a bunch of random people you never met, so they don't know if you're a good guy or a bad guy or anything. Like that's, if you think about it, that's a really weird system to live by. You know what I mean? But a lot of people can fake it, but like, oh no, I'm not biased. Like who's to know that they're not telling the truth, or you know what I mean?
Pick the perfect jury and your job gets so much easier. Make some mistakes in jury selection and you're essentially down 10 points with a minute to go, because how jurors' brains work matter more than how you present the case. I believe that is the most important phase of the trial. To which one famous jury consultant says, jurors are not empty cups. They're not little empty cups where lawyers get to pour their information in from both sides and see which one they like. Jurors serve as filters. The way they process the information distorts some of the evidence before arriving to their decision. Basically saying, it doesn't really matter how good your case is if someone has such a strong fundamental bias against your case that you did not catch during jury selection, you might as well quit and move to Florida and change your government name, because you're not going to be able to convince them. That's how these attorneys describe it. Surveys done on jurors, a lot of them, they actually start forming opinions on everyone in that courtroom. I mean, obviously not people in the pews, everyone in the courtroom before the trial even starts. They're typically looking at, a lot of the times, the prosecutors and the defense attorneys, and obviously the defendant. They're typically looking for competent, energetic, organized attorneys who seem appreciative, patient, sympathetic, good listeners. They're looking for a pleasant presence. not the shrug presence that Diddy brought. But I don't think they care for that for him. Progressively, as the days go on, Diddy does seem to get a lot more confident. The first day that he walks in, he's wearing a white collared shirt, dark navy sweater on top. It's your very typical court defendant outfit. His hair is grayish white. And the way that my researcher describes it the very first day, because his demeanor does change a little bit the second day, she says, this is not Puff Daddy. This is a man named Sean Combs. This is a 55-year-old man with probably a bad left knee, which I would say is very accurate.
That's crazy.
There were multiple times throughout the first week of trial where either Diddy starts slapping his left knee under the table, like just really slapping it. It's not loud, but you can see like he's slapping it or chopping it. Or where there's brief moments where everybody stands up and stretches to use the restroom, he will start stretching that specific left knee. He'll like lift it up in a 90-degree angle and kind of move it in circles and then back down. I digress. Now, since cameras are not allowed in the courtroom, I think the courtroom sketches, they're incredible. I think there's some debate about them online. I think they're beyond the scope of my capabilities, so I can't say anything. But sometimes maybe it's my brain rot frontal lobe. I just have a hard time trying to picture him from the courtroom sketches. Like even during his previous court appearances, I just couldn't understand what he looked like. So we have an edited picture for you. This was done using Photoshop. This is not like an AI generated image. It's literally a photo of Diddy. And by we, I mean the RM team members who actually know how to use Adobe, unlike me. He does look pale. He looks like he could use a lot more vitamin D, but it's not like he can put in a request for that. A lot of people say that he lost weight. I think that he gained quite a bit of weight before getting arrested, and compared to that timeline, he did lose weight, but he doesn't look particularly frail or anything of that sort. He's still quite the sturdy looking guy. I thought it was interesting because visually, he looks a lot older than 55. He looks a lot older than he is.
Really?
Yes, he looks like jail is doing a number on him. However, this is the weird juxtaposition. I felt when he moves around minus his bad knee, the visual, he looks a lot older, but he's not slow. He doesn't seem physically unwell. Like, I feel like he could run a mile.
Maybe it's the hair and...
Maybe, and I do think it's the lack of sun, probably. And when he needs to get up from his chair, I mean, this man is up. For example, when a juror walks in or when a juror walks out of the courtroom during individual questioning, so it's one juror at a time, Diddy and the defense team typically stand up. He's pretty quick with it. He's not gripping the sides of his chair or the table to get up. He's not even slow. He's trying to make a good impression, is the feeling I have. He's up. He's very respectful. On two specific occasions, my researcher and I were scribbling in our notes, and we both looked at each other because Diddy, we felt, in our opinion, shot up out of his chair quicker than he normally does. And we look, and it's a very beautiful female juror with a lot of assets. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and we both wrote it individually in our notes.
Like the way he just shoot up.
Yes, and the way he just kept lingering and staring. Like all the other attorneys sat down first. And then he sat down. I mean, he could have been zoning out and thinking about lunch or the case. I don't know. So the white hair does kind of throw it off. It seems like he's turning into a full-blown grandfather, but physically he seems fine. Day one, he walks into the courtroom, and my researcher was telling me, and he did this again day two. He does this practically every day in court. He starts coming out into the courtroom, shaking all of his attorneys' hands, hugging them. Then he puts his hand to his chest and mouths thank you to the people who came to support him. So other people, I guess, related to his legal team or his friend, and they're in front of us. And he's like saying thank you. Sometimes he'll look around and put his fist to his chest for his friend. Again, his family will, I believe, be there on Monday, so we'll see what his interactions with them are. Diddy mouths thank you, and you can't really hear it. And with that, day one starts. It's a pretty big day. A whole group of jurors are going to be brought into the courtroom. So this is, again, same thing, but they're going to sit in the church pews directly behind Diddy. So they all get brought in behind Diddy using the massive two doors that I came through. And I sit right. They come and they sit in the pews right behind Diddy.
How many came in at a time?
Like 40.
Oh, wow.
And they just single file come in and they just line around the pews, okay? So they take up like 5-6 pews and they're going to be sworn in. But while they're coming in a single file line, Diddy and the defense are staring at them which makes sense because a lot of these attorneys, they write online and they write articles. You want to know their age, race, gender, probably even the way they're dressed to get a grasp of, do they have any certain hobbies, socioeconomic status? What does their attire say about them? What does their posture say about them? Do they look annoyed to be here? Do they look too enthusiastic to be here? The jurors get sworn in and then they get brought back out of the courtroom. And then they go wait in another courtroom. So then they're each called in one by one for a individual questioning.
They are very serious because
I wish I could get called to be a juror.
Determine Diddy's fate.
Yes.
At least for these cases, not the booty cases.
Decide,
yes. Right? I will say I couldn't, so Diddy and his attorneys take 2 rows of the desks and chairs. Linda Moreno, which is his jury consultant, was, to me, closer to the judge. So she's behind Diddy. I couldn't get a good look at her, but from the 4 attorneys that sat on Diddy's row, Diddy and Brian Steele, Young Thug's former attorney, they looked the most intense when they stared at the jurors. Whereas the other attorneys, they were looking, but it wasn't like, it didn't feel so intense. Diddy and Brian Steele, I'm like, whoa, just staring at their faces is very, like they're locked in. I'm sure everybody is, but they look extra locked in. They walk in one by one, and this happens multiple times, but it almost seems like every time the jurors come in, Diddy kind of nods. It's like he's doing a head count, but I don't think he's doing a head count. It's just a thing he does. He has moments where he just nods, it feels, to me personally. And it's not a big nod. It's like an ever so slight. Like you're thinking to yourself. You're nodding to yourself. You're not like confirming like, oh yeah, let's do that nod. It's like to myself.
Does it happen to everyone or most of them? Or
when all of them come in that single file line, he's kind of nodding the whole time. Day 1, both of my researchers were freaking out and telling me, I'm like in the car on the way to meet with them. And they're like, there's this moment where after the jurors leave, he turns around and his hands are at hip level and he kind of rubs them slowly. It's not sinister. It's not like creepy. Like, it just felt like, okay, let's do this. It didn't feel like, yeah, I'm going to take them. It just was like, all right, let's go. So now the jurors are going to come in one by one for individual questioning. But before they can even bring in the first juror, you know when you're in a classroom for the first time and you've walked in, you sit down, you haven't spoken a word. Suddenly the teacher calls on you and you have no idea how to project your voice because you're like, I don't know if this is loud enough when my teacher is all the way over there. Like, I don't know, but then I don't want to scream because that's embarrassing. It's just like, how far is my voice going to travel? I don't know. You're trying to grasp it. Diddy's lead attorney, Mark Agnifilo, stands up to ask the judge, I'm constrained to ask for another 2-minute bathroom break. I apologize. The judge is confused. Well, why don't we try to get through at least 10 jurors? So previously, they already had another bathroom break. And my researchers said it was so quick.
He got a bad bladder?
It just looked, they were like, I don't even know if Diddy peed.
No, they say.
They also said, we also don't know if he washed his hands because it was just too quick. Like, did he not pee or did he not wash his hands? Because they think in their timeline, maybe we're slow movers. That they're like, I couldn't have peed and washed my hands like that in that amount of time span. It was just so quick.
It was super brief.
Yeah. And then and then court is back in session. Then he's asking for another bathroom break. So the judge is like, well, why don't we try to get through at least 10 jurors do we really need to take one now? Diddy lifts his butt up from the chair a tiny bit, and I cross-reference both the researchers' notes. He raises his hand near his head level, and the pointer finger, the index finger, is slightly upwards, but it's not like pointing. It's kind of like, oh, excuse me. But he's barely looking up at the judge. He seems very meek the first day. He barely raises his voice, and this is when he says the 9 or so words that everybody was talking about. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'm a little nervous today. This is considered the first thing Diddy has said in court.
And did he get a bathroom break after that?
Yeah, he did.
How long does usually one individual?
He got nervous and started trying to got to pee again.
It really
or maybe he got the
depends
bubble
on-
guts.
Like
It's
5
like
minutes?
The nervous bubble
39
guts
a
is
day.
crazy.
And then there's group questioning.
Yeah.
And then there's also a few breaks and like lunch.
Okay, so it's like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, and then it
maybe?
really depends. Like some jurors, if they don't answer yes to specific questions, they don't
Okay.
really ask anything more.
I see.
Recently, Drake released this new song, and Okay, it's just not been a good year for Drake. I mean, I feel like years ago, all the titles are like the new face of hip hop. Now the article headlines are we sure Drake is okay? But maybe this is his comeback. Maybe this is his partial recovery from what happened with Kendrick Lamar. He's going to release new music with engaging lyrics. And this one song, the lyrics read, "I've been in the house, but I'm coming outside tonight. Yeah, I love how you always be speaking your mind. People want to meet up, talk about shit. I'm vegan now. Evil eyes are staring at me and I see it now. Shout out to Brian Steele. Take off the cuffs. We leaving now." The whole song is called Brian Steele. So who the hell is Brian Steele, and why is there a song named after him on a Drake album?
The Young Thug
Brian
lawyer.
Steele is one of Diddy's defense attorneys. What he's most well known for being Young Thug's attorney. This is the man that with his full chest said, "Your Honor, Young Thug? More like young, truly humble under God. That's what his name means." Okay, he didn't say it like that. He said it much more eloquently.
He would be truly humble under God. That's what thug means.
But it was equally goofy.
No,
He also shows a picture of Young Thug that supposedly shows him making the letter B with his hand, which I guess the prosecutors were trying to argue that means a gang, that's a gang sign. Pretty much that's a B, which I think by a lot of netizens, or really anyone with some ocular capacity, could see that it does indeed probably look like a B. It's like an eye exam, and you put the super clear slide, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a B, right? I'm being dramatic. But Brian Steele disagrees. He said, that is not a B. That is a P, because my client, Young Thug, truly humble under God, is pushing positivity. P for positivity.
It's called pushing P. And it's positivity. It means any circumstance you're in, if you think positively.
Yo,
about
this
something,
lawyer is
you can
crazy.
make it work. You're pushing positivity. You're pushing P.
Listen, I don't know. I don't even want to get too deep into the Brian Steele lore and the Young Thug case because I might do a whole separate deep dive on
did
that
it work?
one. But now that same attorney is sitting on Diddy's left side. He's sitting right next to Diddy for jury selection. And he is interesting. And this is the part where I feel like, please listen to the wording in all of this.
And I think it's interesting because who's to say it doesn't mean that? You know what I mean? Everybody knows pushing P can stand for something else, but doesn't mean he made it to make it out to believe that it's that way. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we know, but it's just kind of like the whole court aspect of it. It's just like, well, you can't tell me what I meant by what I said, kind of, you know? I don't know. I think Young Thug did get released, right? Or did he lose? Or I forgot. I don't know what happened. I don't really pay attention to that stuff.
I'm trying to describe exactly what I saw in that courtroom. And we went in with the idea of, especially for jury selection, we wanted to see how the jurors would react to the defense and the prosecutors. So, I could have walked in and been like, I personally don't like Diddy, so I personally wouldn't defend him if I were an attorney, so I personally don't like the defense attorneys. Like, I could have just walked in like that, right? But I did want to see from a more neutral perspective of maybe how some of the jurors would feel. And I will say Brian Steele is very likable. All of Diddy's attorneys are incredibly likable if you remain neutral.
How in what sense?
Yeah, let me run you through it. And this is very interesting because there is a poet that reportedly even said a jury consists of 12 people who decide who has the better lawyer. And if that's the case, the prosecutors, they're also a dream team. They're like heavy hitters. But the defense, they're basically courtroom predators. They look like the popular kids.
How many were there?
Oh, there were a lot. So on the row that Diddy was sitting, it was his two main leads and then two to his left. And then there were three in front of him. And then there were a few in the pews. Wow. I mean, he's spending a lot of money. A lot of money. It's reported, alleged by a Young Thug song that Young Thug spent $2 million for Brian Steele. And I'm sure it was more because that trial was the longest trial, I think, in Georgia history or something crazy. His defense team are courtroom predators. And I say that with respect and a lot of fear. Have you ever heard the quote, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression? That's the feeling. So according to one attorney, trial attorneys are professional communicators with their body. That's what they're supposed to do, or at least the good ones. According to some jury experts, they believe, at the very least, this is a very conservative number, a defense attorney's message is conveyed 55% through their body language and tone, and not the words. I'm not insinuating that that's what's happening here with Diddy's team, but yeah, I think they're all incredibly successful for a reason. One attorney says when you walk into that courthouse, you're on. Everyone is watching. In that courtroom, the jury is watching you, not when you start talking. They're watching you from the moment you walk in, long before you say anything. They will notice everything about you and draw conclusions about who you are. It is advised that trial attorneys, especially in the beginning, perhaps practice smiling, a soft smile in the mirror, so they have a neutral, natural, resting facial expression. I don't know if any of Diddy's defense attorneys stare at a mirror when they get home, but I would believe it if you told me they did, because they're incredibly polished. They're friendly, and aside from Diddy just sitting there at their table, a lot of people in the courtroom seem to like the defense team. They seem to have good relationships with the prosecutors. A lot of them used to work at the DA's office. Yeah, it seems... I mean, not the defendant, I don't know about that, but the defense team. So you have his lead attorney, Mark Agnifilo. Appearance-wise, he has salt and pepper hair. I would say more like 70% pepper. I'll keep you updated on if that progresses one way or another during the trial. He has a bit of a rounder face, which actually makes him look a lot more approachable and younger. In a lot of the pictures I find of him online, he looks kind of angry. I think he usually gets his picture taken when he's mid-sentence talking about clients outside the courtroom. So he does look kind of, his eyebrows are crunched together. He doesn't look nice. In court, he looks mainly focused. He doesn't look particularly stressed or angry ever. And I'm sure that's something that all the defense attorneys are trying to show in their demeanor. He's got more of a geeky energy to him. He walks in with one of those backpacks that are like double the size of his back. It's like the backpacks that the smart kids have in school, the one with 10,000 different
I used to
zippers,
have.
which I feel like is less utilitarian and more like bragging
man.
about one's finger dexterity, but he has one of those backpacks. His energy overall is the dad that you ask to take a picture of you on the iPad, and then he'll take a picture of himself and hee ha ha to himself. That's the energy. I'm not saying this is who he is. I'm not saying he's a great person. He has defended lots of questionable people. I'm just saying that's his energy. If I know nothing about him and I walk in as a potential juror, like that's the energy I would get personally. Mark Agnifilo is known for representing Keith Raniere, Nixium cult leader who was sentenced to 120 years in federal prison for similar charges of racketeering and sex trafficking. Keith Raniere also, he liked to wear the defendant's starter pack, white collared shirt, blue sweater, and the way that Mark represented Keith could tell us maybe about how he's going to talk about his new client Diddy. He does the very typical, you might not like Keith Raniere, you might not like what he did, it's disgusting, it's offensive, it's gross, ooh, all that sexual stuff, but you can't convict him because everyone was a willing participant. You can't convict someone for being disgusting and repulsive and offensive. It's not against the law. AKA, a lot of people think that the defense is going to try and say that there's no sex trafficking in Diddy's case, that it's just Diddy being a swinger. AKA, jurors, you might not agree with the lifestyle, but that doesn't make it a crime. Now, despite Mark's slightly approachable, unassuming look, he clearly is a very intense man. One person describes him as a boxer moving through the courtroom, controlled, watchful, every word is a jab, every cross-examination is a calculated strike. He has an unimaginable ability to navigate high-pressure cases. One person says he's built a reputation off of taking cases to trial rather than settling.
Deadly.
He prefers to challenge government allegations head-on. To put it simply, this man is probably a tank in the courtroom. But this is still probably one of his most challenging cases yet. Now, side note, he has now joined his wife Karen Agnifilo in defending Luigi Mangione, so he is officially on that legal team.
Really?
Yes, and Luigi Mangione and Diddy are in the same prison, or jail. One netizen comments, people have mixed feelings about all this. You know, fact, people in America are constitutionally allowed to have representation, so you guys need to stop being mad at his defense attorneys. Another comments, people trash attorneys until they need one, then they'll find out the true value. But another netizen argues, just because someone has a right to an attorney does not obligate any particular attorney to represent them. Agnifilo represents wealthy criminals because it's a good payday. But another netizen has the opposite sentiment. Lawyers are going to lawyer. Believe it or not, defending criminals is not a crime. You seem to be arguing in bad faith from a position of ignorance. They argue back. I also believe everyone deserves a defense attorney, but I also believe defense attorneys that defend obvious monsters like P. Diddy will gain some bad monster baggage.
But that defeats the whole purpose of them being defense attorneys. They're going to support monsters. Even if they don't agree with what they did, that's their job. You know what I mean? Everybody has a right to counsel. Like, it's just a stupid reply. But I mean, again, that's just me. You know what I mean? Well, you know it's obvious. No, sometimes cases are not obvious. Sometimes the evidence is not always there. And sometimes it's not even the person. It happens a lot. It is what it is.
If he really believes Diddy's innocent, maybe he should defend him for free. Others just say, seems like the Agniphilos are going to have a very prosperous year financially. Another netizen comments, I'm not shocked by this in the slightest. He defends the worst of the worst. Along with Mark Agnifilo, you have Tenny Garagos. Tenny she's so put together. She walks in 4-inch heels. She's ready for the day. She's probably most well known for posting a few TikToks last year, more or less defending Diddy on social media, which you can imagine social media and TikTok did not like.
All right, here we go again. Diddy sued by a former bandmate. I'm his lawyer, and here's why you should care. Last night, Dawn.
Some accuse her of being a sellout. Others point out that in one particular interview, it appears that she's wearing white nail polish. I will say it looks a little more baby pink. And some just comment, you know what? No shame in her game. A lot of people, regardless of her own success thus far, though, she's kind of known to be a Nepo baby. But other people say, well, yeah, she's a Nepo baby, but she still is pretty accomplished in her own right. Others comment, I love that she's following in the footsteps of representing the scum of the earth, just like her father did. I mean, somebody's got to do it. I do think that watching her in the courtroom, she might be a Nepo baby, and maybe you can tell by some of her outfit choices or her bag choices. She looks really rich. And we might all have our opinions on people who defend Diddy, yes. But the way she works, I think objectively, she's very good at what she does. But what do I know? She seems very in control. She's poised. She's sharp. Her father is famous attorney Mark Garagos. He's known for a lot of cases. He represented Hunter Biden, Chris Brown, Michael Jackson, the Menendez brothers. He actually just took them on in 2023. So I don't believe he was part of the original trial. So he is advocating for a new trial. Then he represented Scott Peterson, who is actively seeking to overturn his murder conviction, by the way. And we might do another deep dive on that. But Mark Garagos has a whole podcast.
I never heard of Scott Peterson.
Officially on Diddy's legal team.
His daughter is.
Yes, and he's a long-term legal consultant for Diddy. He has a podcast with TMZ called Two Angry Men, which got him into a lot of trouble recently. He goes on there and he calls the prosecution team a, quote, six-pack of white women.
My understanding is you got a six-pack of white women.
To which later, according to court transcripts,
That's
the
crazy.
judge tells Mr. Garagos, when you say things on a podcast like six women, all white, my understanding is that you got a six-pack of white women. That's something that you shouldn't, that no one should be saying as an officer of the court and a member of the bar, right? To which Mark Garagos responds, I think when you've got a black man who's being prosecuted and the client feels like he's being targeted, it's an observation. The judge doesn't seem to be having it. I think this is ridiculous. I think referring to the prosecution in this case as a six-pack of white women is outrageous, all right? And I understand what you're saying about the cases and everything else, but I think this is outrageous, and this would not be tolerated in any court from any lawyer anywhere across the nation, and I'm going to be watching, and I'm going to be listening, all right? You have one more listener for your podcast.
Oh, snap.
To which Mark Garagos responds, as long as you subscribe, I'm all for it.
Hey, yo.
The judge hits back. You heard me, and you've heard what I've said. You know I'll be watching.
Yo,
This judge is very intense. This is the same honorable sir that just looked like he biked to work. This judge is very multifaceted. There's a clip of him walking into the courthouse, and he's wearing athletic wear. He has got his big headphones on, and it's very different from when he's in the courtroom. He, so far, is a very compassionate, fair, firm, incredibly sharp judge. He's so sharp. His brain, it runs on 5 times speed.
Really?
And he's like a tank. He's like, you guys have to tell me about lunch because I'm just going to keep going. Yeah. He's a Judge
Monster.
Supermanium. He is a former clerk for Justice RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. He's the first Indian American to be the New York District Court judge. He was nominated to SDNY in 2022 by former President
I wonder
Biden.
how long it takes to
And
be
now
a
the clip of
judge.
him walking into the courthouse for work, it starts going semi-viral. He looks so young. He looks like an intern. And I say that in the coolest, most respectful way. He's so multifaceted, Your Honor. The comments to him, however, are unhinged. They read, he's bumping to Cassie's songs. He's listening to Diddy's No Way Out. Some comment, I don't know why, but this makes me trust him more. Others say, I feel like the judges who take on serious cases like this should be provided security. But back to the defense attorneys. You have Mark, you have Tenny, the lead attorneys. Then you have Diddy. So this is the seating order. It's like, and I'm sure this is going to change depending on what they're talking about. But Mark, Tenny, Diddy, and then Brian Steele sits on the left of Diddy for jury selection week. And according to the New Yorker and a defense attorney from Atlanta, Brian Steele's from Atlanta. According to a defense attorney that worked with Brian Steele for 30 years, he says, Brian doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. He can't believe anybody would. He won't curse, even in court, even if he's reading from a transcript. So when he's cross-examining, he will say, so-and-so F word. The court will say, you can read that out loud, and he won't do it. He only drinks water. His lunch is tofu or salmon, maybe a salad, no bread. I've never seen him eat out. He'll bring a toothbrush to court. He exercises daily before and after court, running, swimming, weights. He has 3 kids, a wonderful wife who is also his law partner, and they kind of idolize each other. So his wife's name is Colette. And just a side note, I'm going in depth on all these attorneys, and I will go in depth later on the prosecution team as well. I'm not entirely sure what the word would be. They were less notable during the jury selection. I'm sure once opening statements start, I mean, they're a very competent team. So we'll go in depth. I just want to paint the picture because we're going to be talking about them for like 2 months. Yes, you can Google pictures, but there is like a certain energy, like a synergy when they're all in the same room. And I want you to be able to picture it every day and not go through the same things, because I think a lot of evidence, witness testimonies are going to come up. We just won't have time for that. So he always says in the phonetic alphabet, C as in Colette, which is his wife's name, right? Apparently, he's also superstitious. I haven't seen this yet, but he will allegedly kiss a finger or tap on a table anytime death is mentioned. Apparently, he likes to call his childhood friends mothers to tell them, thank you for giving birth to my friend. Also in 1992, Brian Steele was assigned to the case of an illiterate man who was charged with attempted murder in Atlanta. He actually slept in the jail with him because that man he was distrustful of Brian Steele and did not want to say anything. He was not the killer, or he was not the attempted murderer. So he slept in that jail room to try to get him to open up and trust him. And Brian Steele apparently once said, a fair trial is better than sex. He's also said, I've defended people who cut out eyes and ate them. The system only works when the accused have real representation. The more challenging the case, the more likely I'll take it. Do I like the person I'm defending? That's the main thing. The reporter for the New Yorker asked Brian Steele if he would have represented Epstein. He says, I'd have to understand better all the facts and circumstances. See, I don't believe allegations. I go into believing the person is innocent. So he's saying it's not that he doesn't believe the allegations against Jeffrey Epstein, but he doesn't believe in allegations, I guess, until they're confirmed by the court of law. I don't know. Netizens seem to have more positive sentiments about Brian Steele than many of the other attorneys.
That's what I was saying about defense attorneys, as I was trying to say earlier. A lot of them go into it without any facts. Yeah, you say, okay, this person's being represented. That's like me getting sent to jail. They just come in, they don't know anything about me. They have to learn who I am. Now, in the midst of learning who I am, they can be like, oh yeah, I don't like representing this dude, I'm done. There have been lawyers to drop clients like, I'm not working with this dude, I just can't. He's evil, something's wrong with me, he's weird. Like, they can do that. But some of them do just like the whole challenge aspect of it. It's just kind of like, okay, I know he did it, but let's see if I can get him out of it. So you have those too. So don't just go in thinking that all, defense attorneys are just horrible people, because not all of them are there for the same thing. You know what I mean? It's kind of like saying that all teachers are bad or all doctors are bad. That's just not the case.
People are defending his choice of defending Diddy. Others are commenting, or a depletion. Others feel genuinely offended because I think they were emotionally invested into Brian Steele after the Young Thug trial. Some people comment, he's a defense attorney defending the accused, even bad people, and making sure that the state proves their case is his job, I guess. To which someone comments, I don't think anybody's going to hold it against him for not getting Diddy out. Right? Except maybe Diddy. Others say, dude's gonna make so much money. He's gonna do pro bono work at the local courthouse after this. Other people say, on an emotional level, I'm disgusted that anyone would sign up to defend Diddy, but outside my emotions, this is necessary. State has to prove their case, and defense attorneys don't always defend likable people. His work is necessary, even if I want Diddy locked up. The New Yorker describes him of having a Boy Scoutish manner. And I could see that. He seems really interested in everything happening in court. All the attorneys are. No one looks like they're zoning out. But he's sitting left of Diddy, and maybe this is a natural thing. Maybe he's got a better right hip and he likes to lean to the right? But being an attorney for a case like this, it could be argued that maybe it's all intentional. he's always leaning closer to Diddy. He's always resting his right arm on the right side of his chair closer to Diddy because he's sitting on Diddy's left. He also has, the energy is Mark and Tenny are very serious. They're not overly serious or aggressive or skeptical. They're just very in work mode. Brian Steele, there's a lot of moments where he appears to be having a good time sitting next to Diddy.
Really?
Yeah,
Such
it's like
as?
they're passing notes. Brian Steele is smiling. And again, look, I only know what I remember seeing from the other side of the courtroom and my very limited research about Diddy's humor, but Diddy is a big personality. I have never read that he was known to be someone who just makes others chuckle at rapidly reoccurring frequencies, you know? Not that I know of, but Brian Steele seems to genuinely enjoy, I don't know about genuine, he seems to be enjoying his time sitting next to Diddy in the courtroom. But does he really? We don't know. Yeah, and he has a lot of interesting things that he does. I will say I believe the tapping on the desk when death comes up because a lot of his movements are very repetitive. So he wears reading glasses. If he is looking at the screen, he'll have them on. If he's not looking at the screen, he'll take them off and he kind of puts the glasses tip into his mouth. He likes to stick things into his mouth, be it a pen, be it his glasses. He also has a bright pink water bottle that he drinks out of. And I'm like, I always try to analyze, is this very intentional to come off very likable? Or is this genuinely just who this guy is? I don't know. I see him frequently use a pink highlighter. He's got this stance. So anytime there's a break, Diddy's not like lingering and mingling. Diddy gets taken to the back because he needs to be held, and there will be breaks where people need to go use the restroom, and the lawyers, they can come out, the attorneys, they can come out and they can talk, not to the members of the press, they're on a gag order, but they can talk to their colleagues, they can talk to the prosecutors, they can talk to Diddy's friend, right? And they all just seem relaxed, they seem like the cool kids, but Brian Steele has his go-to pose. His blazer jacket is unbuttoned. He's got his hands on his hips, and he's got one hip popped out. It's like a very fun dad vibe.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of it is so genuine. I did read in a separate article that one judge said if Brian Steele cries in court, like he would believe it. He's very genuine, is the feeling. But I don't know. I think he's a fascinating addition to the defense team. And I'm not saying this like, oh, Brian Steele is a good man. I don't know the man. He's a good man and he's defending Diddy, so that must mean something. That's not what I'm saying. I think it's very smart that he hired Brian Steele. Clearly, Brian Steele has extensive history with defending against RICO charges, racketeering charges, which Diddy is accused of. But I do feel like to some degree, was he brought on for positive press, positive associations? Because he was a huge meme during Young Thug.
He was. I've seen him a lot. I just didn't know who he was.
We have Nicole Westmoreland, who also represented Young Thug. Notably, she is a survivor of SA. She is the only Black woman on his defense team so far. And I would say if netizens like Brian Steele, less people know of Nicole Westmoreland, but more people like her. A lot of people are really amazed at how she overcame trauma. She was SA'd in the past, and she became this successful attorney. A few netizens are concerned about the conversation around her being an SA victim and her joining Diddy's defense. Some feel betrayed, writing, she should be ashamed of herself for defending him then. Or another one that reads, if she thinks mentioning her SA will be a strategy to help him, she's wrong. Which I feel like is all kind of icky, the commentary about her essay that is by random internet people. And then you have Alexandra Shapiro. She's got shoulder length blonde hair. It's a little curly. She looks incredibly athletic. If you watch those movies about like New York City power women who do it all, that's the kind of energy she gives me. She looks like she's an attorney. On the weekend, she works on her novel, her fiction thriller novel, and then runs marathons. I don't know if she actually does that. I don't know if she runs marathons. But she is an attorney, and she did release a fiction thriller novel in 2022 called Presumed Guilty. And as someone who has to lay down after going out for approximately 1 hour, she seems like she's going to be running circles. We don't know what she's going to be deployed to do for this case, but she represented SBF. She's described as a former big law titan. She's also clerked for Ruth Gator Ginsburg, but not at the same time this judge did. Others say, call Alexandra Shapiro if you can afford her. Additionally, on the team, there's Xavier Donaldson, Anna Estavo, Jason Driscoll. They're all super successful attorneys, but they're less talked about. So there's not many things that we can go off of, at least not on the internet. So I guess it'll be interesting to see what they do during the trial. but all of them do have a presence about them. They know what they're doing. They're likable. They're the popular kids. One legal expert describes the team as, I'm looking at the team, especially on the first day of jury selection. It seems like they've got people who are experts in their own kind of general areas. I think the team that Diddy has put together are some heavy hitters in
from
their
the light
own
sound
rights,
of it.
and they're working together as such. But maybe, at least for this past week, maybe the most important person on Diddy's team is Linda Moreno, the jury consultant. She's here to help decide which jurors would be the most advantageous for Diddy. And again, we don't really get to, like the prosecutor, we're gonna cover it all. This is not like me just talking about Diddy's team. It's just there were not as many notable moments, and I think we won't really understand what angle they're going for until the opening statements. Now, one attorney completely unrelated to all of this, slightly controversial, bizarrely comments, generally speaking, I mean, there's all these other small things you can do to find the right juror. The heavy, rounded face, happy-looking person is the most desirable. The undesirable juror is quite the slight, underweight, delicate type. Features are going to be sharp and fragile, and he's got a very lean look. The athletic juror is hard to categorize. Usually he is hard to convince, but once he's convinced, he will go all the way with you.
I'm going to end it right here, guys, man. If you enjoyed, man, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, support your boy. I don't know what's going to happen. From what Ron Mango is saying, his defense attorneys are stacked up. Like, he got a lot of power inside of his attorneys. So I don't know. His defense attorneys got a well-known background, do work with Michael Jackson and Young Thug and all these other people. So they're used to, defending celebrities. And not only that, they got like 4 to 5, maybe more brains working together, and they may catch something that the other one may not. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, we found out what Diddy's like. She said that he was more, it's kind of like a shrug, but I don't know. Who knows what it is that his plan is doing? Is he pretending to be like, I'm a little bit nervous? Is he trying to pull off that whole, I'm not this guy they paid me out to be? I'm interested in seeing what Brian Still's going to come up with, considering his, pushing P and all the other stuff he did with Young Thug, which I think was able to help get him off the hook. So, and then we got some other people. And then he got the lady that's over there picking juries for him as well. So they may be able to sway the jury in his favor. So I don't know. Most of our videos are like 2 hours long. So I've been breaking them up in pieces. This was 1 hour and 50. So I did the 50 minutes today. And then I'm going to do the other half tomorrow. So if you guys will see the video without me stopping through it, or if you just don't want to wait for the next part, then you guys can swoop down to that description box. Click on the link, go watch this video in entirety, because I was pausing, stopping, and talking through the whole thing. If you guys are new to the channel, my name is Zems, and welcome to the Crow's Nest. I know I didn't really talk as much during this episode. It wasn't really much for me to comment on, considering I don't know any of the attorneys. I don't know anything about being a lawyer, but I'm interested to see what else he did. I mean, hopefully we were able to cover that, but it was only like a little pinch of what Diddy did and overall in the video that I reacted to today. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. And no one told you today, I love you.